Hello, everybody. This is the Lawrence History Project, and I'm your host, Mark Palermo. We'll be talking in this series about the history of Lawrence, going back sometimes as much as 100, 150 years, bringing us all the way up to the present day. Now, the study of history, I'm aware from high school, from my own high school experiences, can sometimes be pretty dull. Oftentimes it's just photographs and dates of wars and so forth. It can be pretty dry. And the missing component, I find, is often the stories. And so today we bring you the stories. Today my guest is with me is Tom Delisle. Tom is an old friend. Tom and I go way back, the 50s. In fact, we were in kindergarten together. And Tom had a great career in healthcare, and he's got a second career, a second passion that he's always had, and that is photography. And his photographs go way, way back, and he's a master photographer. And today we'll be looking at some of his archival footage of Lawrence. Tom, what have you got for us today, Tom?
Thank you, Mark. Shots of Lawrence, mainly North Lawrence, different neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. I used to ride around my bicycle back in the day, film days. Most of these go back to maybe the early 70s up to the 80s, through the 80s. I have contemporary ones that'll maybe be for another show, but probably 70s and 80s primarily. Mm-hmm.
In this series, we'll be going way back in time. I hope Tom will be with us for many, many. He's got really hundreds of photos that go way back. I hope he will be with us for many, many future programs. Today we're going to be looking at a lot of his stuff. I think it's from North Lawrence. Is that right?
North Lawrence,
yeah. North Lawrence. Could we see the first photograph here? Let's have a look at some of Tom's stuff. Tom, where'd you photograph this?
Beeman's. That was on the side of a bill. I forget where, to tell you the truth. Probably down by the canals.
I don't think it's there anymore, is it?
No, that's gone. That's long gone. Yeah.
You know, I did a quick search online of Beeman's Pepsin gum, and at one time, I guess a doctor by the name of Dr. Beeman had the idea to put Pepsin. Pepsin is a digestive enzyme, and they put it in gum, and they were selling it until they weren't anymore. I don't think there was a problem. Whatever happened, I don't know if he could substantiate the benefits of Pepsin gum, and eventually became Beeman's gum. Mm-hmm. And still sold as a retro product.
Yes.
But it kind of dates that to the 1920s. It's very good condition.
Yes.
That sign is at. I forget where it is, but I've seen it too. Mm-hmm. Can we get to the next picture, please? Can we go to the next photo? Oh, okay.
Bill Peters Cafe. Oh. Bill Peters down on Canal Street. For you younger people, this is pretty close to where the Clatter is. But it's right near the Central Street Bridge. That was a classic joint back in the day.
You know, it lasted a long time. It lasted right into the 80s. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I know nowadays they're shooting motion pictures in Lawrence because of it has like an old-time feel. Bill Peters was a classic 1930s. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if you could say 1930s. It was Depression era, probably. Post or pre-Depression of Prohibition bar, a really old-time bar that would really look good in an old movie.
Yeah, that might have been part of the housing, like the row housing for the mills. It was in that area. I don't know if that was, if that would predate Bill Peters.
Yeah, certainly a classic dive bar.
It is.
We need more of those.
We do.
Can we go to the next photo, please? Oh, classic.
Talking about Billy Early, King of the Hobos.
I remember him well.
Yes. He was actually my cousin's wife's uncle.
Was that right?
Yes, yeah.
Do you know any background behind Billy?
I don't nothing specific other than that he was on the road for at least 30 years, maybe more. I wish I'd known because I think his sister ran a boarding house in Lawrence. I know my cousin's wife's mother, his mother-in-law, ran a boarding house. So I think they might have been brother and sister.
I remember him from my college years at Northern Essex Community College back late 60s.
Yep.
I remember sometime we'd do the old deal. Billy, here, Billy, go in and get us a case of beer. We'll give you a 6-pack. The standard deal.
The cost of doing business.
The cost of doing business. In the old days, this is going way back, but there was a difference between a bum and a hobo.
Right.
A hobo was an unemployed man, oftentimes a veteran or something like that couldn't or wouldn't work and would travel, would work, do odd jobs. And the old mythology was that they had a sense of honor.
Right.
Whereas a bum,
there was a hierarchy there.
There was a hierarchy, yes. Yes. I don't know how true it is, but I remember hearing about that quite a lot when I was very young. Billy was a classic.
Classic.
And then he just disappeared.
Right. It was the end of an era.
Gone. Yeah.
I mean, you'd see guys like that around Lawrence, but I think he's the only one to call himself King of the Hobos.
King of the Hobos, Billy Early. Can we go on to the next memory here? This is taking us really back. Oh, yep.
The old Central Theater.
They all went out. All the theaters in Lawrence went out in the early 50s. Remember that? But this one hung on.
This hung on. I found in the Lawrence archives. I've been working with Immigrant City Archives, digitizing some of the photos from over the last 2 years, and someone has a great shot of a woman that I'll try to find for another time, who I think was the owner's wife, but she was in the ticket booth for 20 years. And I have some cousins that remember going there for shows shortly before they closed, and I think they were giving out live chicks. It was around Easter, baby chicks.
I remember that. Stores used to do that. It sounded like a good idea, the kids, until the chicks start to grow into chickens.
Right.
You wonder what in the world ever happened.
But just the idea of that.
Yeah, the idea of it. Yeah, that
never
was
be able to do that now.
Fairly common back in the old days, giving out live chicks as an inducement.
An inducement to drop your quarter to go see the movie.
Who had nowadays, they would never get away with that. Needless to say.
Too much liability.
Yeah,
PETA would be all over him.
Oh yeah, can you imagine? Can we see the next film? Classic.
Karuba's classic. Newberry Street. Everyone remembers Karuba's. The slush.
The slush. A lot of young people are going back to the old recipes, coming up with things that, bringing them back.
Right.
But nobody is. I see gelato stores, for example.
Right.
I never used to see that, but nobody seems to be bringing back slush, and I don't know why. It's a great idea.
More money in gelato than slush. I think it's sort of designer slush.
You remember there was an old Lebanese man that used to, and after school, would stop by, and this old guy, he'd make his own slush, and it was made with just fresh lemons, and sugar and ice. And it wouldn't be iced; it was slush, as in slush, like weather slush.
Yes.
The consistency was slush. It was so delicious.
It was the best.
No mixes, no artificial anything, just lemons, sugar, and slush.
Yep. And you'd spit out the seed, you get the lemon seeds.
Even the seeds, yeah.
The smallest cup was 5 cents.
Yeah,
It was
imagine
5
that.
cents.
Yeah.
I remember leaving Central and going over there, a bunch of us, getting a cup for 5 cents.
Yeah.
And there was often a heavy gentleman with his big car out there, 1970s, boat, sitting there. He'd have a pint and he'd have the door open. 1 foot would be on the sidewalk. 1 foot would be in the car. He'd be eating his pint of slush.
I could picture that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a regular.
Somebody,
but that was
enterprising person out there, please bring back slush. You'll make a lot of money. You've got 2 customers right here. I'm waiting for somebody to bring back slush.
absolutely.
Can we see the next slide, please?
Cavallaros, another classic establishment on Common Street, just next to Pappy's, with the tiny pool room in between. Rose, there was an older lady, Rose, who ran it with her daughter, again into the 70s. She was old world. She was old world the way that Lebanese man was old world. And that was a classic store.
That whole section there, it seemed to get run down by the 70s Nobody was upgrading anything. I think you mentioned it one time yourself. You know, when they finally took them all down in the 80s,
Right.
they were all dilapidated.
They were.
You know what? I was thinking about with that, and I think most of the people that first, they were the immigrants, the 20s, that came over. Then their kids, after the war, they came back and they said, no, I don't want to live in a tenement anymore. I want to go in the suburbs. And the automobile made that happen. People went off to the suburbs, and they kind of went dilapidated. There was no more energy there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they took it all down
They
in
did.
the 80s. Lawrence had, at one time, I think, one of the largest Italian sections, apart from the North End.
North of
If it
Boston,
wasn't-
I think.
I think it was the largest north of Boston.
Right.
It went on for blocks and blocks.
Yeah. In Common
Yeah,
Street,
yeah.
I know.
Mhm.
Talk with some of the old timers.
Mhm.
And there was a dividing line between the Neapolitan section and the Sicilian section. The
Is that
Neapolitan
right?
was closer to Union Street on Common.
Oh, okay.
I hope I got this right, guys. And the
You'll hear about it if you don't.
no, the Sicilian
Where-
section. Well, there's Napoli pizza, but Tripoli's, I think it's Sicilian. But there was that dividing line going towards Broadway or Union Street, and that was turf. That was your own turf, and you didn't
Yeah, yeah.
cross that line. From what I
Northern
heard.
Italians and Southern
Sicilians.
Italians, and then the Sicilians.
Yep.
There's a whole hierarchy there.
Yep.
Yeah. And people always seem to do that.
Mhm.
It's just baked into the cake of human beings.
Right.
Always
Yeah.
to start forming hierarchies and then get themselves in trouble.
And pride too, local
Yeah,
pride.
Yeah, it is. Okay, could we go on to our next photo?
Roy's AAA Barbershop. This was
my God, isn't that rich?
this man was a master.
Yeah.
Roy, I'd bring my two boys down there. They'd always say, "Good boys, good boys." They loved going there. And
Now, where was that, Tom?
that was on Jackson Street. If you were looking at, Petralia's was in the corner.
Okay,
This was about one door down going towards Havel Street.
okay.
If you were going up Jackson, it would be on the left if you were going north. But he gave the most perfect regular boy's haircut. I remember I lived in Hampton one time, and my boys were getting a haircut down there. And the barber I was talking with him, and he said, "Where are you guys from?" I said, "Oh, Lawrence." "Lawrence, oh, I got connections there." "Where'd you go?" I said, "We used to go to Roy's." I said, he was an artist. He stopped, he was cutting my kid's hair with the scissors midair. He stops, he said, "An artist?" He was the master. And he was the master.
He was a Buddhist.
Yeah.
One with the haircut.
One with the haircut. Yep. I have some great shots again for another time with my boys and Roy. It was like, he was like an uncle. He was like an honorary
Yeah, really.
uncle.
You know, I'm thinking of another guy that was like that. Totally focused. It was a short order cook. You know the guy I'm talking about?
At the Cedar Crest?
He was at Morin's for a while, and he was at the Cedar Crest.
Yep.
And he was so at one, so focused, so present in what he was doing. You just watch him.
You'd watch him.
And-
No
and
wasted
you-
motion.
You know the guy I'm
I
talking
know
about.
the guy.
It's just
Broad back.
but-
He looked like a Marine. But he ran that short order grill.
Yeah,
He was the man, too. Yeah, no wasted motion, like a true master.
Yeah, a real master, a true Buddhist. Can we have the next photo? Let's see what else we have. Is this still there? I'm wondering
the
if
building
that,
is, Chris Belli's, Caruso's. That is East Havel, I think.
Yeah.
Havel Street. Across from, there was Joe's Slush that used to be there.
Yeah.
That was the last place on that corner. That's on the corner of Union and Haverhill. Oh, that was on the corner of Union and Haverhill. But I think that was, I don't remember that being opened. That might have closed in the early 70s.
Yeah, it's funny.
I mean, the sign was still there, but I don't know if they were
I think
in
I've been
operation.
by there. I
They
think
might have
the
been.
sign is still there. Anyway, could we go on to our next photo, please?
Lido Barbershop in Cristaldi's. Lido, again, was an old school barbershop.
Yeah.
You'd get some, half the guys, it would be like the barbershops nowadays. One guy getting his hair cut and five guys sitting around talking. Homeboys that probably knew each other the whole life.
What happened to men's barbershops? There's stylists now.
The style-
there were
yeah,
stylists now
stylists.
that gave way somehow. I think
Yeah.
there's still men's barbershops around.
Oh, yeah. A lot of them in
Yeah.
Lawrence now.
I go to come to think of it, I go to a men's barbershop that's run by women. Men's
Yes.
only barbershop run by women.
Mm-hmm. I go to one too
Yeah.
in New Hampshire, and it's a
Yeah.
source of pride.
Yeah.
They say, I'm a barber, I'm not just a stylist. And
Yeah.
that's a definite source of pride with them.
Well, people should be proud of what they do.
Yeah,
I don't care
yeah.
what you do. I'm old school on that.
And
Whatever you
Cristaldi's,
do the best you can.
When I was going through the archives,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was on Common Street. There was an old shot of Cristaldi's. So
Uh-huh.
obviously the same family, they must have moved around the corner to
Yeah.
Union Street.
Yeah. Can we see our next photo here? Now, I wonder if they had any. I wonder what the building codes were in those days, huh?
Right, non-existent, I would think.
Probably. Or somebody
Non-existent.
must have paid somebody off.
Right.
Oh my God.
That, again, is near the corner of Common and Union.
Okay.
Common and Newbury, I'm sorry. Near where Pappy's and Napoli Pizza, and pretty close to Cavallaros. That was one of the last buildings to come down. I think I have a shot when they were knocking that down. It may not be in this one.
You know, that almost looks like where my father lived when he was young. He lived down there near Savastano's.
Mm-hmm.
He lived in a place like that. I've seen a picture of it, and it's like almost touching the next house.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay, could we go on to the next? Oh well, this is classic.
Classic. Drock's Pizza, at least the second iteration. Remember, the original was on White Street, I think. Near where Bishops was there, I think maybe Nick Malouf's, but this is on the corner of.
Oh, I thought this was White Street. No.
No, this is Chestnut and Short Street.
Oh, okay. Is this the one that we used to go to in high school?
Yeah. I think
okay.
we probably went to both of them.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
this was Rudy's Pool Hall was across the street, and Frasca's Variety was on that corner. So that was a happening corner. Those
there was,
three.
In those days, there was so much. Pool rooms. Lawrence had pool rooms everywhere.
Yeah.
The old days, pool rooms and taverns and brick buildings. It looked like London a lot of places. My wife is from Latin America, and she says, I look at, she's a latecomer. She wasn't here till the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, Lawrence looks like it had it still does have some amazing architecture.
Absolutely.
And back then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, they had urban renewal back in the 60s,
Right.
and they just took everything down.
Everything.
Because I think they were getting a stipend. The
Mm-hmm.
more you take down, the more money you get from the federal government. So I think they get carried away there.
Right.
And probably took down too much. My father said one time, I remember my father said, this looks like Berlin after the war. Looks
Mm-hmm.
like bombed out, enormous swaths of blocks, city blocks, just
block after block.
taken down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any regard for the historical value or anything, or some beautiful buildings went.
Yes. And every house, that's what I found. I used to bemoan the fact that I started in the early 70s. I said if I started a few years earlier, I would have gotten so many more things.
Oh yeah.
But again, working at the Immigrant City, they did take shots of all those buildings they knocked down.
Oh yeah.
And truthfully, I can see why they had to knock them down.
Yeah.
But it's sad that the only record is a few,
Mm-hmm.
some photographs in the archives. But
The
I'm glad the
ironic
city
thing
did that.
is, the second generation. Okay, their parents were immigrants. They wanted to get out of these tenements, crowded tenements. They wanted to get, the automobile allowed them to get out to Methuen and Salem, New Hampshire, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, nowadays, if you look at young people, they want to move back into the cities, and they don't want to be dependent on an automobile.
Right.
Now, I remember when you go back to the 50s and 60s, you could walk. We used to walk to school.
Constantly.
You walk to a gymnasium, walk downtown, walk to a food store. You could walk to a tavern. You could walk to a nightclub even.
Yeah.
You weren't so dependent on a car.
Mm-hmm.
And young people especially really want that. They want to go back to that.
Right.
So I think everything is cyclical. Everything is cyclical.
Yeah. And Lawrence is having a bit of a renaissance. A lot of apartments going up. And they're doing a good job.
Strategic location.
Right.
Lawrence is so close to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to become more and more valuable as the population increases. We're all really greater Boston to some degree.
Right. Yeah.
And
bedroom. Well, if Derry is a bedroom community to Boston, Lawrence even more so.
Derry now. That's amazing. Yeah. What else have we got here? Oh,
there's Rose.
You know her name? She got a name.
That's the Rose from Cavallaros. That's the lady who ran Cavallaros.
Is that, that's a face. I was looking at that face,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, boy, that face has seen so much.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
That may be she's just almost an archetype of the Jungian archetype of the oldest woman in the world.
Right, right.
And if you
Earth Mother.
what yeah, really, what time period did you take? That's about
That
70s?
again was early 70s.
Well, that means she probably was born in the 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
Probably lived through 2 world wars.
Right.
Mussolini.
Mm-hmm.
Probably I'm just guessing. Was she born in Italy?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would think she was probably born over there. I'm
Yeah,
thinking of my grandparents, around that same age.
Most of them were.
They were immigrants from Germany.
Uprooted. 2 world wars. Seen the rise and fall of Mussolini.
Mm-hmm.
And, somebody born like our grandparents in the 1890s, just think of the changes they saw. Like they didn't even have electricity.
Right.
Just my mother was telling me, when she was a kid, there was no electricity
Mm-hmm.
in these 3-deckers. They used to light them by gas lights.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible.
It is.
Can you imagine the fires and the fire hazards and having your whole house gas pipes all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody born in 1890 and somebody who had passed away by the late mid-70s, the things that they've seen is incredible. The automobile, radio, TV,
2 world wars.
moonshots, 2 world wars,
Spanish
rise and
flu.
fall of Muslim. It's incredible. But that's a great shot. I found myself staring at that. And what kind of person was she? Was she like? You said you know her? You knew her?
She still spoke broken English.
Yeah.
We couldn't commit, but you went down there so often. We got to know each other a bit, to the degree that a kid on a bicycle could know her. But I remember I brought her back. I had gone semester break, senior year, over to Europe. I did a little solo traveling for a couple of weeks. And I got a set of rosary beads from the Vatican, and I gave it to her.
Oh, wow.
And
that must have been
it meant more to her than it did to me. It was good to
yeah,
give it away.
Yeah. They were very strong Catholics in those days.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really, really heartfelt.
And I know one of the great geographics photographers say photographs aren't taken, they're given. And with portraits, more so than landscapes. I mean, a landscape, it's not given. With the portrait, it's given.
Well, with your
So I wanted to give
photography,
her
I've
something
seen so
back.
many of your photographs. Yes, there is an interrelationship between you and the person's photograph. I notice you always ask their permission. And there's something that you have a certain style, quality that brings the humanity out in people. I didn't see it at first, but after I've seen hundreds of your photos, you do have the ability. So, Tom's photography, it really has 2 values. It's first of all as photography itself, and then as time goes by, they have an archival value. Mm-hmm. But that was one of my favorite photos of
You
yours.
and me both.
It's just such a classic. I remember I was working on Canal Street,
Mm-hmm.
and they had all the Italian shops. Right, I went out on my break. I think I had a half-hour break, and I had a sandwich. I was just going to run over to the Common, eat a sandwich, and I saw a shop, and they had tomatoes and fruit and everything outside. I wanted to get a tomato, and I picked a tomato. I held it up to an old woman. And I said, "How much?" And she just like said, "Oh, don't worry." She smiled. She says,
Right.
"Forget it."
Mm-hmm.
I think it may have been her.
Right. Oh,
I think it may have been her. This is just a gesture. The gesture was class. I can't
Classic.
imitate it, but the gesture was beautiful. Yeah.
It spoke volumes.
Don't worry about it.
It's like a nephew coming in.
Yeah. Well, let's see what else. What else do we have here, Tom?
Oh, this was
An altar in the home.
yes. Well, that was actually like a religious article shop.
Oh, okay.
Remember, we'd go to King Tut's senior year on
I don't remember
Park.
that. Yeah.
This was down a few buildings from King Tut's. That was the penultimate variety store, Tut's.
I thought
this
that
was,
was. I thought that was.
So of its era.
I thought that was so an altar in the home, which you will see in a lot of people all over the world. I know I spent 43 years as a teacher, 36 of them at Northern Essex. I was working with people who came from other countries all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Italians sometimes do this. They'll have like an altar
Right.
crucifix and a picture of a
Candles,
saint and candles.
candles sometimes.
You know, I've seen Mediterranean people do. I've seen the Vietnamese are big on that. You know, having an altar in the home, and that's originally what I thought that was.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that store supplied homes that just like you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get to another photograph. I think we have room. Oh, the Italian Colonial Band Club. Are they still around?
I don't think they are. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I know there's a couple bands that play at the feast. I don't know if this one still is. If it is, I don't think it's in Lawrence. Because Sal Lorena has St. Alfio's band.
Oh, okay.
There was a second band.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that is. That was one of the buildings that went down during the urban renewal.
Yes. Okay. Let's see another one. A wonderful message to the world, although perhaps a little excessive in its exuberance. Nevertheless, no doubt.
There was probably
a sincere expression of faith.
Yes.
Jesus Christ is the Lord of humanity, not a word of profanity. Beautiful.
And that is just down the block. That's on Park Street, going towards Broadway, just down maybe half a block from that religious article store. So it might have been a small church that was set up in there.
And let's go for another one. Oh.
Mayor Buckley. This was when he was having his swan song, I think. He had been the mayor whole, life growing up. He was mayor for like 20 years. Then he went away for a while, I think.
It may have been more like 30. He came in the post-war years.
Post-war.
I think around late 40s, early 50s. And he built a political machine in Lawrence. A lot of patronage, a lot of jobs, a lot of much like who's the guy?
Tammany Hall.
Tammany Hall. Yeah, Tammany Hall without all the violence and nastiness. There's sort of a Tammany Hall in Lawrence, and Mayor Buckley ran it. And then, as you say, he retired or semi-retired, and then he came back more time. Right. I think it was the early 80s.
I think that shot was from the 80s.
That was it. Yeah.
That was on Common Street.
I'm losing track of the time here. I think let's go for another one here. Ward 1, Precinct 2, Kathy Pappalardo. That dates it. She challenged him.
She did.
She and she was young, and I think she was in her 20s. I don't know what became of her, but she challenged her, and she gave him one heck of a run for his money.
Yep.
She lost, but I think it put the fear of God in him.
Yes. And that was on Common, just a few doors up from Buckley's.
Yeah.
Buckley's office.
Buckley. Mayor Buckley, yes.
Mayor Buckley.
I think it's time to wrap it up. I think we're getting a signal. Now, I just want to say to your viewers out there, if we get the story right, if we got it wrong, let us know. We do have a email account I just opened. It's lawrencehistoryproject@gmail.com. That's lawrencehistoryproject@gmail.com. Is there anybody that we're missing? Did we get the story right? Is there more to it? Is there any suggestions you have out there? Anything you'd like us to cover? So we're wide open, and we're ready to serve you with many more programs. I want to thank my guest, Tom Delisle. Tom, I hope you can come back.
Thank you. Oh,
many times.
Yes.
As many times as you want. Okay, you're always welcome here.
Just name the time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you out there. And thanks to Havel Community TV for letting us do our program. They're wonderful people to work with.
Yes, absolutely.